Hello again, my good friends, and we are about to start with the next session, which is going to be a lecture from Jan, representing Orbital Knight. Hi, Jan.
Hey, how are you?
Fine, how are you? How are you doing?
Good. Pretty sunny day, nice day, so I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's same here where the studio is located. Where are you located exactly?
I'm located in Poland, Poznań. Our offices are in Warsaw and Poznań, but I was born here in the city, so I'm raised and live here in Poznań.
Yeah. Great to know. Well, at least that's great that you have good weather as well as we do. So hope it helps you with the presentation. Good luck and have a great one.
Okay, thanks. Hi to you all, guys. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about hyper-casual genre and the phenomenon of hyper-casual genre. Pretty much everyone right now in mobile understands what hyper-casual is and see the magnitude of that genre. And I just wanted to go through that in a little bit more details so you would understand where it comes from, what is the characteristics of hyper-casual games and how to create those. But before we will hop into that, I'd like to give you a small introduction of who I am and what we do at Orbital Knight. So I'm Jan Chichrowski. I'm director of publishing for Orbital Knight. And basically, we as a company was established in 2012. Initially, we were doing more hardcore titles. From the very beginning, we were mobile oriented, but we were doing hardcore titles, midcore titles with a moderate success, I would say. We even tried some premium titles. But later on, we wanted to experiment a little bit with more casual genre of the game. Therefore, we developed a game called Kikerinho, and Kikerinho managed to gather 10 million downloads. So it was pretty big success for us, and encouraged by that success, we decided to go even deeper into that. And that is why around 2 years ago, we signed an agreement with Voodoo. And so far, we developed and published 3 games with them with over 50 million downloads. So great success for us. We're very happy with hyper-casual genre. We're conducting business with Voodoo, which is a great partner, and we love working with them. And actually, it goes to that extent. And on January this year, we signed additional agreement with them that lets us extend their publishing offer, which means we're looking for great games, great studios that would like to join Voodoo family and publish with Voodoo. And that is something we help with, and that is something especially I'm in charge with. So if any one of you would like to work on those, hit me up. There's going to be a mail of my present. Okay, so this is a quick introduction and hopping in to tell you a little bit more about hyper-casuals. So what are hyper-casual games? Basically, these are very simple, like easy to pick up mobile games. These are pretty much mobile games. I have never heard about hyper-casuals on other platforms. And they are very, very easy to pick up and instantly play in them. What is a good description of those is that they're very intuitive and they're very coherent and understandable. Therefore, that's why in most of the hyper-casual games, you won't see any tutorials, because this is the aim of those games. This is one of the targets when you're creating those games, is that they're very self-explanatory. And it's one of the requirements for those games, which I'm going to tell a little bit more about later on. There is a minimalistic UI, and I'm going to explain why. They are mostly in portrait mode, because this is how usually, this is the most native way of holding the phone. This is how we hold the phone. And therefore, this is the most native way for people to engage with the games on the phone. At least in casual genre. And they have a very high replayability. So there is a huge thickness to the game. And even though they have a quite relatively short session times, there's a lot of those sessions per every day, which builds into very long engagements and very long play session daily. They're very comprehensive and understandable, which means basically that they have very simple gameplay mechanics. They are very clear in terms of the win and fail condition, which is super important. They have some depth, though, which I'm going to tell a little bit more about. And above all, they are pretty much playable by everyone. They should be playable by everyone. So it gives you kind of indication as well how you can test it. You can pretty much test it with everyone. And both kids and your grandparents should be able to play it, understand it from the very beginning. So Couple of examples. There are 3 games. Crazy Kick, which is our game. Helix Jump. It is other Voodoo Studio game. Crowd City as well. And these are great examples of hyper-casual genre. At some moment of their lifetime, they were pretty much golden standard of what hyper-casual is. And each of them has, I wanted to go through because each one of them has something very specific and different that makes hyper-casual genre so successful and so distinctive from other types of games. Crazy Kick, what Crazy Kick has is, I absolutely love it, the voodoo description for it, because they always say because of the lack of other words, they just call it how it is. And what it is, it's a WTF elements. I'm pretty much sure you understand the abbreviation of that shortcut. So WTF is something that is works pretty amazingly in terms of CPI and hyper casual genre, so cost per install, and in general creates a lot of depth and engagement and an immersion for that game. And well, as you can see here in Crazy Kick, you control the ball, and this is actually the arena where you can't do it, but there are a lot of arenas on top of the buildings. So like those red guys can fall from those buildings and like really crazy thing happens. And first of all, you control the ball itself on some weird arena. So there's a lot of like very differentiation that creates that WTF element. Good example is Aqua Park IO as well, where you can jump out of the half pipe or actually push other kids out of the half pipe, which is totally crazy, right? It's nuts. So, but that something like that works pretty well in hyper casual. It's good to remember that. Helix Jump has something what is one of the most desired and one of the most difficult elements to construct and design into hyper casuals. And this is something we call it depth, depth into gameplay. So basically, one of the biggest issues we see in many hyper-casual concepts or prototypes we are getting for evaluation is the fact that they have a pretty neat control system, easy, understandable. Everything is correct. The problem is that they're very shallow. So you control something like, let's say, left and right, and that's it. And in Helix Jump, if you're familiar with that game, you crashes through those discs. But the beauty of that game is that sometimes you can make risky movements, which basically allows you to crash through all the discs at once. But it takes skill, so you need to master the game in order to do it, and it takes some kind of risks that player takes. And this creates amazingly immersive depth. And that is always what I advise you guys to look into hyper-casual games. This is very important because this builds retention. Crowd City, on the other hand, is a game that features physics, liquid physics actually here, but those guys move around based on physics. And it's amazingly well done in that manner. And there is a lot of really amazing, great examples where physics is used, like ragdoll effects, for instance, on different opponents, or some blocks falling over, or some wall of bricks exploding, etc., etc. For some reasons, I think it's because it looks very enjoyable of how physics works in games, and these types of games this type of mechanics is always something that is very desirable. All right, so a little bit about the market itself. It was kind of, I knew from the very beginning about hyper casual genre that it has a huge potential. It's a big market, but I never realized how big it is. Currently, guys, approximately 80% of last year growth on mobile markets was done by hyper casuals. It is insane how big that market is. It's $3 billion. And if you can, I mean, it's pretty obvious if you check the both pages of charts of the App Store or Google Play, you will see that around 60% to 80%, sometimes even, of top 20 are hyper casual games. And it's a tremendous success of that genre, and it will definitely thrive. And we can talk about it a little bit more. But basically, it's definitely the thing currently on mobile, and there's tons of publishers, developers, and basically players in that environment that want to hop into that riding train. So as you can see, this is this pie chart is from Iron Source. So you can see that around 20% of new gamers are coming from hyper casuals. And so why is that phenomenon? Why is that happening? That why is that phenomenon that people are playing as crazy in those games? I always wondered about it. And the explanation is pretty obvious and logic. It is because a gamer profile, like an average player profile, has changed over the years so much in so many ways. We mostly, as game developers, we're hardcore players. We play in I don't know, PC games, maybe console games, high quality production or indie games, etc. Nevertheless, all of those genres are pretty much for hardcore players. And currently, the biggest chunk of players around the world are mobile players and casual players, because these are not typical players as we know and understand. They are usually older than 45. I mean, not usually, sorry, a third of them are over 40, not 45, which is quite astonishing. And half of those players are women, something that we tend to forget. And the reason because of that is there is a huge distribution of mobile phones around the world, especially in emerging markets. And during the last couple of years, there was enormous sales of new cell phones, and therefore new people got a chance to grab a new piece of technology on which they play. So why is the phenomenon of hyper casual? Is because for those people that have a connection to those new technologies and to smartphones, this is their first encounter with games. That is why we very often say when working on hyper casuals is that we all need to remember that we're making games for non-gamers. And this is so much true. That is why, if you guys remember from my first slide, I was talking about minimalistic UI or like a very simple graphic. And this is because of that. These people who are playing hyper casuals, they haven't encountered any graphic standards like, I don't know, Diablo, StarCraft, or maybe later on Call of Duty or something like that. So they expect some coherence and simplicity rather than some amazingly beautiful, sparkling graphic. And this is something worth to remember. So who's playing in that actually? Most of hyper casual gamers are women, and it's pretty much what mobile split it looks like. As far as I remember, mobile players are in 55% women, and in hyper casual genre it is 58%, so pretty much the same. As you can see, in Impossible Battle Flip, a game very popular hyper casual game back in the days, 27% of those users are between 26 and 35. And I'm not going to go through all of those details here, data, because you can see that there's different types of behavior, different types of target groups that are very popular, that are very common among hyper casual. But the most important part of that, and to remember, is that the hyper casual players are literally everyone. So think of the game, if you would ever like to produce such, or I don't know, get any connection with, think of that as more, this looks more like, I like to use that comparison, it is called impulsive product. So FMCG market, fast moving consumer goods. So it is like chewing gums or, I don't know, candies, stuff like that. Stuff which you do not specially think of when buying it. You do it impulsively, and everyone is using them. So this is pretty much what hyper casuals are, and that kind of creates a beauty of it and challenge is that the fact that those games, they should not have any specific setting, like, I don't know, sci-fi Western, because this narrows your target audience and you want to have it as wide as possible. And on the other hand, the beauty of it is that you can easily kind of test it because you don't need to have specialized tests. You pretty much just give it to someone from your family who's not a player, and they should understand that concept. They should understand that prototype. They should be able to play in that game without any problem and should hooked in. If you're meeting those requirements, that means you probably have a good hyper casual prototype or a game or a hit. So Voodoo, I think it was probably like 2 years ago, year and a half ago, they made like a list of characteristics of the game, of hyper casual games, that are very, very relevant for me, and I really like them. So I'm going to talk about a couple of them. But basically, they say that hyper casual games should be snackable, YouTubeable, not punitive, straightforward, innovative. So I'd like to talk about first three of them, and maybe about the fifth at some moment a little bit. But I love what they did in terms of the description of those characteristics. So first, what is snackable? And it's an amazingly well done and crafted description of the game. They're using it very often, but I think it sticks really nice. They're comparing an experience with hyper casuals to the to Snickers bar or Mars bar. I think they're using Mars bar, but I'm not a big fan of Mars, so I've used Snickers or something else. Nevertheless, so this is a very, very similar experience if you think of that. It's pretty quick. You eat that bar very quickly. Though it has a long daily playtime, which basically means that the sessions are very short, but players usually play a lot of during the daytime in those. It's very easy to pick. I mean, if you buy a Snickers bar, it's very easy to open it, and you eat through it very quickly, and it gives amazingly great rewards very quickly, instant rewards, and that is very often what we see is a flaw when we are getting prototypes from our partners. They're showing us the game, and we can see that they're like, you have to go through, I don't know, 5 minutes of gameplay in order to have some kind of reward or feel gratified. And that is why most of the hyper casual games, I think 98% of them, are level based. This is something to remember, because a lot of people think that endless types of gameplay is a good hyper casual game. It's usually not. And the only reason why hyper casuals have level based is because of the rewards. So you put like, I don't know, 1 minute of your effort into the game and you finish the level, and this is gratification, right? So you see you have done something and you progress through the game. This is ultimate reward. Second one is YouTubeable. I thought about YouTubeable that it's viral, but it doesn't mean that. It's something completely different, though I think hyper casuals could make great viral videos as well. Basic YouTubeable, what it means is that after 5 seconds of watching the video, you should completely understand what it is about. It should be very coherent and very clear what are the game goals. So what should I do in the game? What is my objective in the game? How do I play in that? And who do I control and how do I control? So what's the control system basically, and what character am I playing? And thirdly, which is probably one of the most important parts, is I should understand very clearly what is the win and fail condition. Whenever you're producing a hyper casual game, try to think of a video that you would make of them, like a 15-second video. And actually, this is something how we evaluate games in our program, mostly on video based. And try to make a video out of that and check if in the first 5 seconds you can meet those requirements. If that's the case, then you probably have a good concept. And not punitive. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a Polish phrase here, co to jest, which basically means what it is. Not punitive, what it is. Well, 2 examples, obviously. On the left one, you have a woodcutter, and on the right one, you have a hardcore game, which is what that sells, right? That sells, yes. Completely 2 different experiences, and this is a good example of what hyper casual should be. On the left side, in this game, there is pretty much no fail condition at all. So you can do the shape you want out of the wood. You can do it better. You can do it worse. You can, freely move, like open your imagination and create whatever shape you want. And you're gonna, like be assessed with the points of how well you've done, but you can't lose it. And this is very often what we see in hyper casual games, because they are supposed to give you a very pleasant experience for users. They should gratify them and they should reward them with the time they spent in your game, and they should feel great about it. While hardcore games, obviously, like Dead Cells, is about dying, right? So it's dying, like completely different type of experience. And this is something that won't work on hyper casual genre. So think of that. If you like games like Dead Cells and you play them a lot, whenever you're gonna do a hyper casual game, try to think of something totally opposite. Forget about that dying simulator. Oh, sorry. Okay, so very important slides about where hyper casual might be. This is a very common example. I think pretty much for last year and a half, everyone is using Archero as an example of hyper casual 2.0, or people sometimes call it hybrid casual. But to be honest, no one ever repeated the success of Archero. They are literally the only one who created something like that. But the direction is good. I doubt that there will be a specific new genre that is going to be called hyper casual 2.0. I just think that Archero created some kind of niche for players, and there's basically huge casual types of games markets, and this is where it landed. So it's not like a very specific niche, and it doesn't as well gives a prophecy of a dying hyper casual market, because it will never end. I mean, there are tons of newcomers who wants to play in games, but they are kind of intimidated by hardcore types of playing, and they will always join hyper casual games. So I don't doubt it will die. Nevertheless, what we will see and what we see already is the fact that hyper casuals are getting more depth. So they basically are being extended in terms of metagame, because metagame gives excuses to monetize the game through in-apps. So the game on the right is called Sort It Out. I'm not sure. I don't remember, or Order It or something like that. I don't remember. And it's a very nice, easy game, very super casual, but very pleasant. You order some stuff, like there are different, I don't know, windows in the building, and one of them is open, and you need to close it in order to be in a row with the same type of windows. So it's a very ASMR-based game, let's say, but it has meta to it. So there's some kind of city building, and you invest in different buildings, etc., and it gives additional layer to the game, where obviously a publisher, so Voodoo in that case, can monetize it through in-apps, but it creates as well some kind of depth, and we will see it more and more often. And I think it's a good direction. So kind of more layers into the game. But obviously the core gameplay is the key. So the core gameplay has to work. Yeah, that's it from me, folks. If there's any question, I'm happy to take them. Just for your reference, there is my mail here. If you would be ever interested in checking out your concept, chat about hyper casual, or join Voodoo family in some manner, feel free to ping me. I'm very happy to chat further about it. And for now, thanks so much, and I'll be waiting for any Q&A if there's any.
Thank you very much, Jan. This was a great talk. Thanks for deconstructing the hyper-casual games genre. It's always useful to see another view and approach to the hyper-casual, because it's like super hot topic. Everybody's talking about hyper-casual, and the studios are popping up like mushrooms after the rain. Publishers, it's the same with them. And we really have many questions in the lectures chat, but unfortunately running out of time a bit. But the topic is super good. Could you please go to WNHub lectures session to the chat to discuss with people hyper casual a bit after we finish this one, because we need to connect to the next speakers and maintain the timing.
Sure, I should go into the hub, and there are going to be people asking.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I'll do it. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I believe we can talk about hyper casual for hours, but unfortunately, we're running out of time. Hopefully next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully next time.
Physically.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, and take care. Goodbye.
Yeah. Take care. Goodbye. Bye. Bye, guys. Have a great